The runner had sprinted the last 200 yards through snow that came to his shins, and he arrived at the command post out of breath and half frozen and carrying a message that he believed meant the end of the regiment, and he delivered it to the colonel, and the colonel did not even look up. The message was as bad as a message gets. The enemy was through the wire in strength on one part of the perimeter. The position was folding. In the runner's telling, and he was not exaggerating, he was reporting what he had seen with his own eyes. The whole thing was about to come apart. The regiment was about to be overrun, and something had to be done right now, or there would be nothing left to do anything about. He said all of this to Colonel Lewis Puller in a rush, the words tumbling out with the panic still on them, and he waited for the colonel to leap up, to shout orders, to react the way the size of the disaster seemed to demand. And Puller, who was bent over a map with a message form in his hand, finished reading the line he was on. Then he asked the runner one quiet question, and then he gave 2 or 3 orders in a voice no louder than the one he would have used to ask for coffee, and went back to his map. He never stood up. He never raised his voice. In the middle of what the runner was certain was the death of the regiment, the colonel did not so much as get to his feet. And the runner, who was 19 and terrified and could not understand how a man could react that way to news like that, would spend years afterward realizing that what he had witnessed in those 30 seconds was the single most important thing a commander can do in a catastrophe, and that Puller's stillness had not been coldness at all. If you want more untold stories from the men who actually fought these wars, take a second and hit that subscribe button. Let me back up, because to understand why Puller did not look up, you have to understand what was actually happening around that command post, and what a commander's job truly is at the moment everything seems to be ending. In late November and early December of 1950, the 1st Marine Division was fighting for its life around the Chosin Reservoir in the mountains of northern Korea, surrounded, on a single road, outnumbered many times over by a Chinese force that came in the dark, in waves, against every part of the perimeter at once, in cold that fell to 35 degrees below zero. And the nights at Chosin were a specific kind of hell because the Chinese attacked in the dark in enormous numbers, and a perimeter under night attack is one of the most frightening things a soldier can experience. You cannot see how many there are. You can only hear them and see the muzzle flashes and watch positions near you light up with fighting and feel the line bending and know that somewhere in that blackness are more of them than you can count, coming for you. Panic is not a weakness in that situation. Panic is the natural human response, and it is contagious, and it is the thing that actually destroys units. Because here is the truth about how a perimeter is lost. It is very rarely lost because the enemy was physically too numerous to stop. It is lost because at some point, the men holding it stop believing it can be held, and once that belief goes, the holding goes, and the position collapses not from the outside in, but from the inside out. A perimeter is a psychological structure as much as a physical one. It holds because the men believe it holds, and the fastest way to make them stop believing is for the panic to reach the top, for the men to look toward the command post and see their commander come apart. Now, here's the thing about the runner's message, and this is the part that matters. The runner was reporting a real emergency. The enemy really was through the wire. The position really was in trouble. He was not making it up, and Puller knew he was not making it up. But the runner was also doing something else, without meaning to, and without knowing it. He was carrying panic. The message had 2 parts, the facts and the fear, and they had arrived braided together, and a lesser commander would have received both as one thing and reacted to both as one thing. And that is the trap. Because if Puller had leapt up, shouted, shown alarm, if he had reacted to the fear as well as the facts, he would have confirmed the panic. He would have told the runner, and through the runner the whole command post, and through the command post the whole regiment, that yes, this is as bad as it feels. The commander himself is alarmed. The situation is out of control. And that confirmation would have done more damage than the Chinese through the wire, because it would have started the collapse from the inside, the psychological collapse that actually loses perimeters. Here's what doesn't make it into the accounts. Puller had been in enough desperate fights over enough years to understand something that cannot be learned from a book. He understood that in a catastrophe, the commander has two entirely separate jobs, and that they happen at the same time, and that most people only see the first one. The first job is to solve the tactical problem. The enemy is through the wire here, so you move a reserve there, you shift fire, you give the 2 or 3 orders that actually address the actual breach. That is the visible job. The second job, the invisible one, the one that is often more important, is to manage the emotional temperature of everyone watching. Because the commander is not just a decision maker, he is a thermostat. Every man who can see him is, consciously or not, reading him for the answer to one question: how bad is it? And they do not read the answer off his words. They read it off his body, off whether he stands up, off whether his voice changes, off whether his hands are steady. And whatever temperature the commander sets, the men match. If he runs hot, they run hotter. If he stays cool, they cool toward him. Stay with me, because what Puller did with those two jobs at once is the whole art of command under fire. He did the first job, the tactical one, completely and correctly. He was not ignoring the emergency. That is the thing people miss. His stillness was not denial, and it was not paralysis. He heard the message, he understood the breach was real, and the 2 or 3 quiet orders he gave were the right orders, the ones that actually moved force to the threatened point and addressed the actual problem. Tactically, he responded fully. But he did the second job at the very same time, and he did it precisely by not looking up, by staying bent over his map, by keeping his voice at the register of a man asking for coffee. Because every one of those choices was a message, broadcast to everyone in that command post and everyone they would talk to, and the message was, this is serious, and it is not the end, and it is being handled, and there is no reason to come apart, because look at me, I am not coming apart, and I have seen worse than this, and we are going to deal with it. The one quiet question he asked the runner was part of it too. By asking a calm, specific, tactical question, rather than reacting to the panic, he did something to the runner directly. He pulled the runner out of the fear and into the facts. He made the runner stop being a frightened boy and start being a source of information, which steadied the runner, gave his fear somewhere to go, and sent him back to the line not as a panicking man who would spread panic, but as a man who had watched his colonel receive the worst possible news without alarm and would carry that calm back to the perimeter as surely as he had carried the panic away from it. And this is where it gets complicated, because on the surface, Puller not looking up looks like the coldest possible response. A man runs in saying we're about to be overrun, and the colonel doesn't even lift his head. It looks like indifference. It looks like a man so hard he has stopped caring whether his regiment lives or dies. It was the exact opposite. It was the most caring thing he could have done, because it was the thing most likely to save them. The stillness was not the absence of feeling. It was the disciplined suppression of the display of feeling. In a man who understood that at that moment, his job was to be the calm that the whole regiment could calibrate against. He almost certainly felt the alarm. He was not a stone. He simply understood that a commander who shows his alarm multiplies it across every man who sees him, and a commander who eats his alarm and stays visibly calm subtracts it, and that in the economy of a perimeter under night attack, that subtraction is worth more than any single tactical move he could make. See, what most people miss about this story is that they think courage in a crisis is about action, about the leap to your feet, the shouted orders, the visible urgency that matches the size of the threat. Sometimes it is the opposite. Sometimes the bravest and most useful thing a leader can do is to refuse to perform the alarm that everyone expects, to hold a stillness he does not feel, to be the one fixed calm point in a scene that is trying to become a panic. Because the urgency is already in the room. Everyone already feels how bad it is. What they need from the commander is not more urgency, they are drowning in urgency. What they need is the opposite, evidence, in the one body they are all watching, that this is survivable, that it is being handled, that there is no cause to come apart. And the only way to give them that evidence is to not come apart, visibly, when every nerve is telling you to. And there is a reason this reaches far past a frozen perimeter in Korea, because everyone who has ever led anything, a team, a family, a room full of frightened people in any kind of emergency, eventually learns that in a crisis, everyone is watching the person in charge to find out how afraid to be. The panicking parent creates panicking children. The alarmed boss creates an alarmed team. And the leader who can receive terrible news, absorb it, and respond with calm competence, instead of matching the fear, gives everyone around them the one thing that actually helps: permission to stay functional. Not by denying the danger is real, but by being living proof that a person can look straight at it and not fall apart. That calm is a gift you give by holding it when you least feel it, and it is one of the most powerful things one human being can do for others in a bad moment. The runner went back to the line, and the accounts say he went back different than he came, that the panic had been taken out of him, not by reassurance, not by a pep talk, but by the simple, stunning fact of watching his colonel receive the news that the regiment was about to be overrun and not even stand up. That fact reorganized something in the young man. If the old man isn't worried enough to get off his stool, the runner's body concluded, somewhere below thought, then maybe it is not the end after all. And he carried that conclusion back to the perimeter, and it was worth more to the men there than any reinforcement. The perimeter held that night. The breach was sealed by the reserves Puller had quietly ordered forward without raising his voice. The regiment was not overrun, and the division fought on, and came down the road, and reached the sea. He did not talk about the moment as anything special. He had 100 like it. But the runner talked about it for the rest of his life. The night he sprinted through the snow, certain the regiment was finished, and gasped it out to Chesty Puller, and Puller did not look up. And how that, exactly that, was the thing that told him it was going to be all right. So, was Puller right not to look up, to withhold every sign of the alarm he must have felt, and meet a report of imminent disaster with the calm of a man ordering coffee? Some would say it was a dangerous performance, that a report of the wire being breached deserves a commander's full visible urgency, that there are moments when men need to see their leader treat a crisis as a crisis, and that a colonel who stays seated while his perimeter folds risks looking not calm but disengaged, and being too slow to a threat that was genuinely about to end them. Others would say that Puller did treat it as a crisis, fully in the orders that mattered, and that the stillness was not disengagement, but the hardest and most valuable discipline a commander has, the refusal to broadcast a panic that would have spread faster than any enemy, and the deliberate choice to be the calm the whole regiment could steady itself against. At the exact moment, that calm was the scarcest and most necessary thing on the perimeter. Let us know where you land in the comments below. And if you want more untold stories from the men who actually fought these wars, make sure you subscribe.